It's another Tuesday night, and this is Conservation Conversation 32. Thank you for joining me. We've had an amazing series 2 so far. This is the final episode, though, for the year, because December means a little bit of a break, and it's been really exciting, but also a lot of work running these every single week for you. And we've been slowly making our way through the lineup of the Manchester Folk Festival. So I'm going to give you a bit more from that today with a very special guest, probably the most special guest of the whole season. I'm really excited to meet them at last and to ask them our questions. Before that, a quick news update for you. So those eagle-eyed amongst you will have noticed that Stornoway has announced the Beverley Folk Festival for next year. So we're going to be there in June. Come along and see us there. It's one of only a handful of dates we've announced for the new year, which include obviously the Royal Albert Hall, which we're tremendously excited about. And we've announced our support act for that, who's the magical Hayden Thorpe. And we are also doing a warm-up for that in Totnes. But apart from those two, I think the Beverley Folk Festival is the only other thing currently announced. So come and see that. We'll catch you there. The second update is nothing to do with Stornoway, really, but just our favourite writer, Robert Macfarlane, had some good news over the weekend, which was on Saturday showcased and premiered, the world premiere of a new choral piece of music in Helsinki, and that was coinciding with the planting of 49 saplings grown from the sycamore gap tree. So, you know, Stornoway, we're really into trees and wildlife conservation and biodiversity. And I just wanted to mention that if you haven't seen Robert's amazing work yet, go check out that choral piece and go listen to some of it. And hopefully we'll see it live in the UK soon. Finally, a news update for the Folk Album of the Year Award, who are kind of our partners in this podcast. So the Manchester Folk Festival, Sound Roots, English Folk Expo have partnered with us to make this series possible. And they are all collaborating on the Folk Album of the Year Award, which is having its inaugural year. So many of the guests that you've heard me speak to over the past weeks have submitted albums to that. And we're going to see the award happen soon. So go check it out, subscribe to it, and get involved. We're really rooting for the Sound Roots community as they move towards running their first award. And now let me start to introduce our final guest for the season. So my guest today did a Folk on Foot session, which is very much tied in with that Folk Album of the Year award scene. The Folk on Foot archive, if you haven't seen it yet, is an amazing subscriber vault that is best enjoyed with a subscription. If you can go and get one of those, it's really worthwhile, because they've got really some of our heroes who have recorded sessions with them. Everyone from the likes of the Goblin Band to Johnny Flynn, Sam Lee, Bella Hardy, and many more. And I highly recommend going to check out Folk on Foot. My guest today has also recorded a session with Folk on Foot, and I was just rewatching it as a preparation for this conversation, and I'm doubly excited now that I've been reminded how magical their session was. My guest today, who you'll meet in a second, has been awarded the Christian Raphael Prize in association with Cambridge Folk Festival. This is a major honour in the folk scene. They've been awarded by the Paul Hamlyn Foundation as well, and they've been celebrated for their many collaborations, including having an album produced by the legendary Eliza Carthy. But without further ado, I'm going to invite into the room the magical, inspirational Angeline Morrison. Welcome, Angeline.
Hi, thanks for having me, Ollie. It's lovely to be here, and thank you for your lovely introduction as well. I was thinking, is he sure it's me?
My pleasure. Thank you for giving us your time, Angeline. And I know it's sort of mid-tour, because you've been having some dates in October, including the really the very special, important event, the Black British Folk Takeover at the Cecil Sharp House, right? I'd love you to tell us a bit about that. And then you're going out on tour for 2 more dates next month, I think. So yeah, in the middle of all that busyness, thanks very much for prioritizing this.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Do you want to tell us a bit about how that celebration of the Black British Folk Revival went at Cecil Sharp House? First of its kind, I think.
It was amazing. It was just beautiful. And yeah, you're right. It was the first event ever of its kind in Britain. There'd never been any kind of a dedicated celebration of contributions of folkies of the African and Caribbean diaspora in English and British folk music. So I really wanted to just shine a light on all of there's a lot of us doing this. And I think we're becoming more visible now, which is really, it's lovely, because we love the scene, we love the music, we love the folklore, we love the folk traditions, we love the songs, but we do come to all of these things with a slightly different relationship. So yeah, it was great. We had some amazing, incredible performances. We had Jerma Adan, we had Mucho, who on Instagram is like Book of Voices. Have you come across Book of Voices?
No, I haven't, but I know another one of your guests, Cohen Braithwaite Kilcoyne, was actually our first ever guest on the Conservation Conversation, so it was really great. And Jerma Adan, I've come across, certainly, yeah.
Jerma's incredible. And Cohen headlined, as did Karaoke, which is funny
Brilliant.
with guests. And it was just incredible. It was magic. It was a magical event. There was so much love in Cecil Sharp House. It was kind of like a beating heart of love. Wholesome love all day long. And really, we had a folk club in the evening. I really wanted to have like a Golden Majority folk club as part of the event. So there was a break in the day. And we had like a sing around and I wanted more of a music session. We had a little bit of a music session tunes and stuff. It was mostly singing, but we just had amazing variety from literally around the world, including England. It was a wonderful day. It was magical.
That's brilliant, and I hope it's the start of a whole series of things that people who are watching this call but weren't able to come in person this time can maybe get involved in future.
There will definitely be more. So yes, please do watch this space if you wanted to come along and consider. But also, hopefully, I hope it will encourage people around Britain to put on their own events like this. It's really important.
Yeah. Well, it seems to me that there is a sort of explosion now in interest in the Black artists on the folk scene and the music that they can represent. So, and almost very, very significantly, partly due to your reinterpreting of many songs and addressing some really tough topics. Just shortly after the lockdowns, your album, The Sorrow Songs, right, and talking about slavery and all sorts of issues that I think folk has had a duty and has not lived up to that duty to discuss these really important issues. So thank you for pioneering so many of these conversations that needed to happen.
Thank you. I agree. I think folk is the place where, first of all, I feel like folk is the place where you should be able to go and find all these underrepresented British ancestors, right? Folk tells the stories of all the downtrodden people. But second of all, as you say, I think there's a responsibility if we really are musical people and representing real life and real people and real history, then we've got to take the dark with the light.
Yeah. Very well put. Well, I want to ask you about conservation of music, and so it's great that we've just talked there about looking back to the songs of the past and then doing something with them that pays respect to how they have always been performed, but really pushes them into a new space as well and a new a vocabulary and a new conversation. So my first conservation question about music is whether across all the repertoire and the performances you've seen and the music enjoying you've done over the years, what would be one thing that stands out that you'd recommend to the audience that they check out that neatly balances the old and the new there? So fans the flames of tradition, but also creates space for innovation.
That is such a good question. And I think that question really cuts to the heart of what I think all folk singers are trying to do, aren't they? We're trying to really love the tradition, but love it in a way that is meaningful to us and the people around us right now, but also respectful to all those voices throughout time that put their vocal fingerprint and their sort of soul fingerprint into the music.
Yeah.
That's what we're all trying to do. So in terms of my repertoire, probably I would say my version of the Brown Girl, Wild 180, Child 295, sorry, I can't remember the child number, but 29 something. So that song is like a talisman for me. It's probably the first, no, that's not probably, it's definitely the first time I ever heard a British folk song. And there are English versions of this song, versions from the North of Ireland, Scottish versions, and then it leapt over and there's American versions too. And you can't find it in the oral tradition, but it seems to have been mostly popular as a broad slang to borrow and plentiful. But when I first heard the Brown Girl, it was a moment of revelation. It gave me shivers because it allowed me to see as possible for the first time something that I always thought was possible only in my imagination, and that was the inclusion of black and brown people like me, my community, within the world of English and British folk song. I just didn't think that was possible, and nobody that I spoke to thought that was possible either until I began to learn about the historic black presence that we have in Britain. So my hearing of this song, which was the first version I ever heard, was by Martin Pelfrey and Dave Scroobitt, an incredible version, which I had the honour to sing that in front of Martin Pelfrey himself at the recent Life and Times of Martin Pelfrey celebration. So it was me and Hamilton Gross.
Yes.
We arranged that song together. And I was able to tell Martin how much it meant to me that it was, and I mean this, it was the first time that I felt like there might be a place of belonging for me in English folk music. It was so significant. So I knew I really wanted to record a version of that song because it's so important to me. It really has been a talisman in my personal journey with folk. It's hard to know how to put this into words because when I heard my first ever folk song, unaccompanied English traditional song, it was Shirley Collins singing out the radio. That was the first time I'd ever heard it, and I had a real epiphany. It was spiritual. It felt a real spiritual experience. You know, when music does that to you sometimes, it's really just lit every cell in my body, and it felt very familiar to me, as well as feeling very exotic. It felt really familiar. There was something about the song and the cadences and that really beautiful voice, which was like a voice from another realm to me. But there was something about that was unlike anything I'd ever heard before, but also felt really deeply familiar on a level that I couldn't explain. I'm sidetracked a bit, I tend to do that, sorry. But I knew I wanted to record the Brown Girl, so my version is, there's so many versions that I love, so the Frankie Armstrong version is wonderful, because all of the rage that the Brown Girl's feeling, all of her anger at being so horribly rejected by Letta, so disrespectful, and she's angry, and Frankie Armstrong's voice just really embodies all this anger in powerful ways. But in my version, it's much, the Brown Girl that I'm channeling is much more, she's measured. So she's gone through the anger part and she's got into the acceptance part, but she's still annoyed and she's still hurt. And she doesn't want to rush to his bedside because he doesn't deserve it. But so there's a lot of slowness in my version. I wanted to, in terms of my singing and the musical arrangement, which was the brilliant Nick Duffy.
Yes.
So he provided the guitar. I sent him the stem of my unaccompanied vocal, and he created a very beautiful, steady but halting. It's halting in places as the town park, which echoes her movement across. So she's only walking a mile, but she's taking a long time on a summer's day
Hmm.
to walk a mile to get to the bedside of this cheetah. So yeah, so there's lots of slowness.
Yeah. It's so important, isn't it, to create space for slowness and contemplation in music, where the temptation these days is to throw in all the bells and whistles because technology lets us do that. But my guest last week was talking about the value of using tape to record where possible, not because it necessarily to them sounded any better, but because it forces them to have a slowness about the way they produce the music and take time over every decision. And by the time you're ready to do a track and lay down a performance, you've really thought about it a lot more than when we can these days because of technology allowing everything to be so digital and quick. But the idea that the protagonist in the song is walking slowly is just so beautiful, and the way you interpreted it in your arrangement, it actually reminds me of a particular genre that I've loved for many years. It's called Maskandi. It's from Southern Africa, and it's about it. The whole spirit of Maskandi is to walk with your music. So traveling with the concertina, being sort of bellowed at walking pace, or the guitar. These are the two main instruments, and then there's the penny whistle as well. But whichever of these one is playing, one's meant to, as a maskanda, um, to play the music in time with the footsteps. So it's just a really beautiful tempo based genre. And in case you haven't checked that out, I'd be happy to send over some tracks.
Oh, thank you. I would totally check that out. I love that concept of, of playing at walking pace and keeping pace with your footsteps. I often do that when I'm learning a new traditional song. I will walk it in the landscape, and sometimes I'll record myself and post it. But I really make friends with how you got to get inside a song, haven't you? Sing it, but it's a very long time. You need to be friends with the song to get to know it. It's an important process.
Yeah.
Familiarity, but yeah, walking
Yes.
is a great way of getting familiar with the song. So yeah, I will check that out.
Yeah. Well, it's also very much in keeping with the folk on foot folks that I mentioned earlier, for whom you've done that beautiful session you recorded in North Cornwall, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And I wanted to link us to them and to our second question as well by talking about the places that we visit with music. So whether we're walking somewhere or going to sit and enjoy music with a crowd of people, or going to write music on a retreat or something. But the way that conservation in the environmental sense now follows on from our conservation in the musical sense, is there a place or an adventure outside that you've taken that you felt invited nature into the process of music making?
For me, nature is fundamental to my composition practice. It's absolutely fundamental. I require it. I need to go walking in wherever I can. And if I'm at home, I'm very lucky because I live in walking distance from the sea. So I live very near the sea, and I can walk down to the sea through a wooded path that has a stream. And it's really incredible to listen to the orchestra of nature as I'm walking down there. I've had this idea for ages that I want to sample the sound of the wings of birds as they're taking flight from the bushes for that particular sound. And to use that as percussion in some it's a wonderful piece of sound, isn't it? So
Yes.
I really, and if I happen not to be anywhere near the sea or trees, then I just walk around outside and look at the sky and people watch. And I need to be outside so much. I require it. So for me, if I'm stuck on an idea, if I'm stuck in, if I can't figure out how to get from here to here on a song, if I need a bridge, if I need a road, whatever I need, I know that nature will nature gives me the idea, walking about by the sea or amongst trees or in the cliffs. It just it opens something up in me. I don't know if it works, but I don't need to know because it always works out. It's never
Yeah.
end.
That's brilliant.
Any ideas about how that works?
Oh, yeah, well, Stornoway's written about this very topic for ever since our first album, and before we've had songs like "We Are the Battery Human," which talks about how humans might feel that they're most comfortable inside, surrounded by their creature comforts, but actually it's going outside when we reconnect and tune back in to something much, much bigger and more important and fundamental, to use that word you used. And if we are not outside for a length of time, and the lockdowns were a terrible example of that, people were stuck inside for so long, we became disconnected. And to hear you put it just as you put it, I would love to use the words you put there. Nature in the outside world is fundamental to my music practice, and the sounds of the winds and the birds. I'd like to include that in the post, I think, when we put this conversation up later after it's gone out live, because that's the most succinct way anyone of my guests has put it, really. We've had artists describe their studios that have a bit of nature in them, or particular venues they've played, but yours is really, I think, the best rooted answer, because this is somewhere near your home that you're describing, and somewhere that you experience on a very regular basis, right? So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It's the truth. So I have the space where I record, which is technically my recording studio. It's at my kitchen table, so it's a very hard working table. It has many balls in it to run risers. And I don't have a very complex setup. And if I do need anything more complex, I go to a studio or a beer from France or something like that. But I do like to keep things quite simple, and I'm basically a very analog soul.
Yeah, so often the best approach is leaving technology behind and getting back to what is really making music, and what is making music making real in person, life in 3D. Well, that's my two questions about conservation, and I'm really, really grateful for your responses. Especially, there's so much that we don't have time tonight to talk about. Frankie Armstrong, whom you name checked, is one of my very favorite folk singers, and Hamilton Gross, your bandmate. So I met Hamilton for the first time at Moseley Folk. I think we both played it a couple of years ago. Then we kept in touch, and he came to see us at Worthy Earth Festival the following summer. And it's we go way back now, and it's really wonderful to know that you're supported by such a talented collaborator there. But yeah, I'm going to have to wrap up the conversation, unfortunately, but by asking you, is there anything special and unexpected that folks should get excited for with your set coming up at Manchester Folk Festival in March?
And we'll have some new music on it. I'm so excited. I love Manchester Folk Festival. It's a special one, isn't it? And I do remember you at Moseley Folk.
Oh, great.
I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad you got in touch with Hamilton. Such a talent.
Yeah.
I'm really lucky with being able to work with such wonderful musicians. I never second to the production. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And you were going to ask me about autumn, weren't you?
Yes, the signs of autumn. So if you have time to tell us what you know.
Listen, I have got. I posted on Instagram about it this morning, I think, or maybe yesterday. These insane mushrooms. Just loads of them. I turned around for 5 minutes and I looked back at the room and it was just not these mushrooms. And they've got an quite a poetic name. I might get this wrong. It's either cloud funnel or funnel cloud. So I looked them up and it says edible, but may give you gastrointestinal issues.
Ah, okay. So edible up to a
Make them,
point.
but they might kill you.
Yes. Wow.
So that's my sign. Have you got any big signs?
Well, I'm much less the trained botanist of the band. Our singer Brian is a PhD ornithologist and knows everything there is to know about nature. So if I don't have Brian with me at the moment, but on tour together, we usually are led by Brian, spotting all the signs of the seasons. The signs for me have included some of these smoke trees. They're very popular around where I am. Smoke tree, the American smoke tree, it's called. It's very hardy, and that's why I think a lot of people get it because it can be quite hard to keep the trees alive in one's garden, especially in the changeable English weather. But these smoke trees have done really, really well this year, and they've all turned the most incredible shade of this, almost this kind of red, but a little bit more yellow. And when they're very densely packed with the leaves, it sort of shines the yellow onto the ground. Even on the darkest of days, the light kind of filters through the leaves onto the ground, and you get this kind of patch of just wonderful yellow light. And it makes everything underneath it just absolutely glow. So the smoke tree has been my really enjoyable sign of autumn. They're all sadly shedding their leaves now as we move into the frosty season.
Smoke tree. That sounds cool. I've never seen them.
They're really worth checking out if you want to, plant a seed and watch something grow, because they're very hard to get wrong. So there's some gardening tips on the Stored Away podcast. Didn't see that one coming. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Angeline. Thank you so much for talking to me, and I'll see you at Manchester Folk Festival, if not before.
And thank you for having me. It's been lovely to chat to you.
Pleasure. And that wraps up season 2 of the Conservation Conversations. I'll wish everyone a really enjoyable rest of your year, and see you in 2026. Thank you so much for the crowd who's joined tonight, and to Angeline again, really appreciate your time.